Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of That Real Estate Tech Guy. I'm your host, Jordan Samuel Fleming, and today I'm joined by none other than Tyler Austin, CEO of Data Sift. If you don't know Data Sift, you probably do because it's when RAI Sift combined together with Data Flick, creating a fantastic new company with the best-in-class CRM as well as best-in-class data. Now, Tyler and I have known each other and worked together for a long time, so this is a really fun conversation, and we were both in Tampa at a mastermind, so we were able to sit down together and actually catch up properly. Um, if you don't know Tyler, he's a fantastic guy with a great story and a really very focused way of approaching investment, as well as kind of product development. And one of the stories I absolutely loved was, he sort of dives into when he first started out as a real estate investor and, spending money on a mailing campaign that pretty much failed. And that led to his realization that the data really mattered, which is kind of where his whole story starts, both from when he created REI Sift to now Data Sift, the combination of those two platforms that I'd mentioned. And so it's a great opportunity to hear about not only some of the technology that you as investors can really harness when he talks about Data Sift and the capabilities, but also just to look at some of the things that Tyler's learned and what led him both to become a successful investor as well as to create a successful technology platform. So I'll shut up now and I'll let you dive right into the conversation I had with Tyler Austin from Data Sift in Tampa. And I'm here live with Tyler Austin from Data Sift, live for the first time on the podcast because we're both at an event. Tyler, it's been great to see you again. For those that don't know, give a little bit of a background on who you are.
Yeah, so I'm Tyler Austin. I'm currently the CEO of Data Sift and Chief Product Officer. We did a merger with a company called Data Flick last June, and now we're called Data Sift, as we've said. And we spent 7 years building the product, merged with a company. And I mean, the feature set and product suite now is absolutely amazing. We've been integrated with SmartPhone for 4 years now, 5 years maybe. It's been a while. Our number one dialer inside of our platform and communication really for SMS dialing, bulk dialing, the whole gamut. So I'm really excited for everything you guys have coming.
Well, I'm particularly glad to talk to you today because since the merger in particular, you guys have really gone deep on the data side and making that, data, having lots of data is all well and good, but useful data is what matters. And so can you give a little background on your guys' approach to data and how you're trying to make it really, really useful for the investors that use your platform?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things early on in my real estate career I noticed is that there's some bottlenecks in, like, people were getting a lot of data, but what was the difference and why would somebody who's getting less data still get as much deal volume or sometimes more than someone who's doing a lot of data? And we've taken that philosophy of like less is more in most cases because it makes it to where you're more easier to be compliant. It's easier to have like a dialed in team. And overall, like everybody likes bigger margins, right? And so what we've done is we've taken nationwide real estate data at the highest level, and we've built our AI models on top of it in order to predict over 50% of real estate investor transactions that happen on a monthly basis, basically. And this allows our users to go from, say, like 100,000 records that ordinarily they would market to down to like the 20,000 that are most likely, which drastically reduces marketing costs. And if you take that logic and then you combine it with all of our distressor suites like obituary data and foreclosures and probates and low income and age of properties, what we've done is we've built this ability to do market analysis and find where is the best places to be marketing, so that we can narrow in the right areas to pull the right data, but then what is actually selling to investors inside of that market, and we can narrow then down deeper to that by doing a competitor analysis tool that we've built. And we can take even that from 100,000 down to 50,000, down even to the 10,000 most likely accurate properties to spend the least amount of marketing, utilizing smartphone and direct mail integrations and things like that to be sequential in our marketing efforts. And what's really beautiful about it is as you're marketing inside of our platform, what we've done is we've made it to where all that market response, and that's why we love SmartPhone so much, is everything that you guys do in a platform comes back to our platform. Every wrong number, every dead number, every disconnected, all of that really beautiful information that you're spending a lot of money on your team and your time and to get market response is being tracked within our system in addition to any other marketing efforts you're doing. And so we go from market analysis, pulling the best data, to now really managing that data to understand who am I reaching, who am I not reaching, because at its core, if you're outbound marketing to say 1,000 people and you're skip tracing, I don't care how many skip trace providers you use, 600 of those people you will never get a correct number for. And so it's like, how do you make sure that you're understanding who you're not reaching, spend more time dialing the people that are most likely to pick up the phone, and then build processes to really reach those you're not reaching. And we have users, doing multiple six figures and spending a month, and spending, only 10,000, 25,000, a month. Just really low margins, or really high margins, really low overhead, because of that focus on the data. But we wouldn't be able to do it without like really core relationships and integrations to be able to feed back this information to build that proprietary database for businesses.
And what I really like about that approach is, the strategic versus volume.
Yeah.
Like the volume play is never been good. No. It's what everybody starts doing because they think they should, right?
Right.
If I ramp up and dial, and I just, and that opens up, to your point earlier, that opens up compliance potential issues. And it's not a cost-effective way of doing it. It's a really bad return rate percentage compared to taking the time and doing strategically. So, obviously you grew everything around this platform and the product around your experience as an investor.
Yeah.
Did you, if you can kind of think back to when you started, did you have to have a journey from understanding the sort of the wide pay to the strategic? Did you learn that, or did you come out of the womb strategic, essentially?
So I do have an advantage in the sense that I since I was a younger kid, I was always a bit more technical, but when you're I was working for the government at the time, and although I was in a very technical job, I was in, cybersecurity and things like this. I had a really good idea of like analytics and data makes an impact, right? In my world, one bad keystroke could literally be like detrimental, to people's lives and organization at the time. And so I was really particular. But when I thought about real estate, I'm thinking like construction, swinging a hammer, like a lot less invasive, And so I figured like this bulk strategy is the way to go. But I didn't have time to be doing cold calling and stuff like that. I needed something. I was traveling 50% of the year. I was working in skiffs all day, 12-hour shifts. Like there's no, for context, skiffs is like you can't have your phone in there. It's like top secret, blah, 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 right? And so, I had to figure out a way, how do you do deals while in that environment, And so I sent direct mail. The only thing out there that I seen about direct mail was like 10,000 postcards, absentee owners, and just do that every single month. I was $60,000 in debt at the time. I was not making very much money working for the government. They don't like to pay people what they're worth.
At all right now.
Yeah, especially now. In fact, actually, ironically, around when I started real estate, I think every single year there's a financial stop, where they can't make their budget. But it was one of those moments around that time where I was really like, dude, I got to find out another way, because I didn't feel like that I was going to be able to trust that when I get to like pension time frame, that it's not just going to get pulled, And so I was like, I need to take control of my financial future, and I want more for my family, right? And so how did I do that? Well, don't recommend this, but I took $10,000 on my government travel card and I sent direct mail with it. I was traveling a lot of the time, and when you travel, sometimes you get usually like $1,500 and like per diem that you get paid back to. And I was like, hey, over the next like 6 months of travel, it's gonna get lost, right? And I was higher ranking GS, so it's like it took 6 congressmen to fire you. It's like, what are they going to do? I mean, and so it worked out, never got caught until like
This is being recorded.
until one government person finds this. I've said it enough out there, I'm too insignificant for them to find it. But like, nevertheless, like, so I sent this, and I go out on an engagement in California. I was out there for 3 weeks, and then we're out in the middle of the desert kind of thing. And I'm like, it's an hour from where we're at to a hotel. And I'm just thinking this whole time, like, okay, I'm going to get back and I'm going to have voicemails for like direct mail, right? And for 3 weeks straight, going home, I'm thinking, don't have my phone. I'm going to get in there, open it up, no calls for 3 weeks straight. I get back home, and I go to the post office. I open my little box, and there's a slip in there. And I'm like, okay, I've never had a post office box before. So I take the slip, go to the front, and they give me a bin full of direct mail. I mean, thousands of return mail. I've clearly missed the mark here. I was like, I either did something absolutely wrong, or everybody in this industry are liars and scam artists, which is only like 25% true. Yeah. No, but like, so being an analytical person, I go back to my house and I dump all this mail on my mom's office floor, and I spread it all out. And at that moment is when I realized that data doesn't come the way I need it for business. It's very accessible in real estate, but it has to be utilized in the right way. And what all of the people that were educating around like send direct mail, what they weren't saying is that they weren't giving the technical in the middle part of it. They're educating the go send a ton of direct mail, like follow up, the stuff that's easier to understand to go buy a program or things like that. But there was nothing in the middle. And I recognized this as a problem. And I wrote a script that like over that weekend, basically, to upload my list to and break it apart. And then I was left with like a clean list, incomplete data, trust in companies. And that was the foundation of what Sift became, which was this actually for bulk marketing originally, to make bulk marketing more effective, because when you send direct mail, we want to reduce return mail. When we skip trace, we want to try to get the best hit rate. And if you have messy, dirty data and not good data, it won't happen.
You know what's funny? I was just thinking when you were saying that, back when we first met, virtually, obviously, and people were like, "Hey, do you integrate with, at the time, REI Sift?"
Yeah.
And I think people were talking to you about, like, when they would mention you guys and you, they'd be like, oh, like list stacking.
Yeah.
They'd be like,
Yep.
This is a list stacking platform.
It is,
And, and I remember, I think we'd had like an initial conversation and then nothing.
Yeah.
For a long while. And then it all took off, because I think at that point, I guess you'd built the full CRM element, and it became a more important thing. But I remember that kind of journey. And to your point about that bulk, my first understanding of you was list stacking.
Yeah.
And then it shows to me that arc of that arc from and understanding and narrowing into exactly, actually, if I have great data, if I have great data and capability and I put everything together, I'm going to have a superpower compared to everybody else.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really fun arc for you guys and for you personally on that.
Yeah, what's interesting is we're a very unique platform in the sense that, like, I just had someone here at the mastermind say, so are you guys like a data platform or a CRM? Because I know they have a bunch of clients with us, and they said, because some of our clients, they use you guys just for data, and use a different CRM, and some of you use us internally. And and some of them do like our first to market marketing strategy, which was very niche, very focused. And then we have, users dialing millions of records a week, really big, call agencies and things like that. And so we're unique in the sense that our foundation is, by managing data and doing it the right way, it makes it to where if you do want to be a bulk marketer, you better be using us, because it's going to make you more effective and better, right? And that's where we started. So we started in that, like, the natural byproduct of managing data and cleaning it up was that, like, to do that, you had to normalize it and stack it. And it fit very well then for someone who wanted to be super niche. They can say, oh, I just want the people that are on like probate, foreclosure, and have high equity, versus the other guy's just going to take everything and call it, And so over time, what we were able to do, like, Tommy Harr's business, for example, he's a great example. They've been a user for a very long time. And
Customer rise as well.
yes, yeah. And so, they follow a very strategic strategy on their outbound that we were teaching back in 2020, where we take that bulk marketing data, and instead of just uploading the whole list, to Smart Dialer, instead, what they do is they create segments within it, no different than an email campaign, right? Hey, here's the stuff that's all vacant. Here's the stuff that only has high equity. Here's the stuff that's on multiple distressors. And they create, we call them buckets, the 4 buckets, and they market to just those 4 buckets. They intake a ton of data every single month. They separate the buckets, they send it out to their dialers, and they do very well doing that strategy. I've been doing it for years and years. And we still have users that'll bring that in, but then we have the other users that, in my business, we only bring in 800 records a month. But we multiple 6 figures in the triple and up 6 figures, and low 5-figure sometimes in spend. I think last month was 300K, 315K with 12K in spend. Just insane margins, and we generate 10 leads a day on average from 800 records a month, and that's all click to call, all manual text messaging inside of Smart Dialer or smartphone. And so it's you can make a lot of money being very niche, but if we wanted to expand that, it's just a matter of going to do my market analysis and saying, hey, instead of pulling this really niche data and really dialing in, let's go ahead and grab these 10,000 people that are very strategic, and let's throw it in Smart Dialer because it's already all there. So the ability to scale my business is so effective.
Now, I'm sorry to interrupt this amazing conversation, but I wanted to make sure you knew that SmartPhone, the only phone system built for real estate investors, connects to the best-in-class real estate investing CRMs. And because, as it's my show and I am co-founder and chairman of SmartPhone, I got some great deals for you. Click the link and take advantage of 5,000 minutes free calling with SmartPhone, the only phone system built for real estate investors. Click and call. Close more leads. Back to the show. And your point, the point that's really valid there that people should remember is pushing the accelerator does not mean pushing the accelerator down to everything, right? You can do high volume strategic calling.
Yes.
But I don't know any good performing lead generating agency or call center a good performing one that uses shit data.
No.
Volume does not mean everything.
No.
Volume still has to be strategic in the data you're doing, because that's going to get you the success rate.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times people think, to your point, the 800 records, relatively small amount.
Yeah.
Great margins.
Amazing. Yeah.
I know who wouldn't spend. You'd spend $12,000 and get 300.
I do it every day. I wish I could do it in my restaurant, in the software company. It'd be amazing.
People, I think sometimes that you either do small and strategic, or you do large and sort of wide.
Yeah,
and that's a dumb way of looking at it.
No, it's you need to be the ideal scenario, and what we're seeing right now in this market, especially with our bigger affiliates that have big operations and they teach scaling. The idea of scale, we've always had, our idea of scale has always been the same: start, refine, build operations, and then build on top of that. And scaling is not spending more money, it's making more margins and freedom, right? And to do that, it requires a little bit more patience. And I think that's why people jump into the other one so quickly. But what we're seeing is that scale now to these companies are being a lot more strategic. And you said it yesterday in the AI call that we were on, right? You said that it doesn't matter how amazing AI is. You got to get down to the root operational problem and then figure out what you're truly trying to solve, because that's where AI and any platform becomes super effective. If you don't really know what your objective is or what the true problem is in your business, you're not going to be successful in the result. You're going to have hiccups and bumps. And so it's better to come into the problem saying, well, what is the most cost-effective, most efficient way of doing this that's going to allow us to...
Sorry, I just...
Oh, you're good. Frank, he's so funny. That's going to allow us to do very effective marketing. And if for whatever reason, like the campaign doesn't work out, at least I spent very little trying.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think your point of patience is a really important bit, because and it goes to some ways, particularly for if you're newer. I think the newer avatar in real estate, a lot of times, there's a reason the actual success rate from new to experienced and really scaled is small.
Right.
And the reason is people come in thinking it's going to be easy, quick, right? I saw this. Clearly, it's easy. I'm going to be able to make a couple $1 million, buy my Lamborghini because the guy on Instagram says so.
Yep.
And the truth is, the people who build really the best real estate operations have built incredible operations.
Yes.
And they are strategic, and they track metrics. Nothing is quick and easy.
Yes.
And there's a real problem there around that. So if you're listening, if you're a newer real estate investor, the opportunities are there
everywhere.
You just have, but slow down.
Yes.
Go slow to go fast, or whatever that phrase is, which I can't remember right now. Slow is fast in this case, and being strategic and thoughtful will make you way more money than just, oh, come on, I gotta go, I gotta do a lot of deals.
Yeah. Well, there's in the software space of this too, you have where there a lot of individuals that are getting into it, they're not thinking like as business owners now, like you and I, and where our software companies are, when we got to make a decision on we're not thinking about what is the solution where I can do everything in here, right? We're thinking about, well, I know that I'm committing to this process that I'm solving for a long time, because I'm expecting the business to be around for it. Like, you're not expecting SmartPhone not to be here.
We've been here for 9 years.
Right? And I'm not expecting Data Sift to go away anytime soon. And so I'm making decisions for the long game, and I'm committing to the process of the thing, because I know it's not going to happen overnight. Compared to a lot of even companies that are making seven figures in real estate have this problem where they're looking at different platforms that they're going to start using, and they're thinking for the very, very short term, and they're not really committing to the journey of what the actual problem is that they're solving. And so when we have users come in, we let them know, listen, our tool is a catalyst for you to achieve the end goal that you're trying to do, but our processes and the things that we teach you, and the things that our partners like SmartPhone are teaching you about, through their support center and everything else about how to make sure that you're being effective on your dialing, it's the culmination of a tech stack of companies that truly care about your business and where you're going as a business. And if you have a product like Data Sift, and you have a SmartPhone, and you combine those two together, two companies that really care, even compared to something that's more like an all-in-one solution where they build the dialers internally, you're building a tech stack, and because of the case studies, listen, you guys, clearly SmartPhone works. You wouldn't be in business today if it didn't. Clearly, Data Sift works. We wouldn't have our Trustpilot reviews if it didn't. And so instead of being like, oh, well, I think that I understand better than the companies that literally are spending millions of dollars a year to build a product and sustain a user base, and there's all these reviews saying that there's success around it, instead of thinking that I know better and I'm going to be like, oh, well, Data Sift's data doesn't work because I didn't get a correct number in my first dial. Instead of thinking like that, you got to think around what the actual goals and objectives are about what are the people doing that are successful. And the people that are successful doing the game consistently, making money every single month, they're operationally driven and they're focused, and they're not making excuses on why this thing or that thing isn't giving them results. They're attending the trainings, they're doing the work, and they're making sure that they don't put somebody else's excuses in their mouth.
The path to success isn't sexy.
No.
The outcome is.
Yeah.
The path isn't.
Right.
The path is consistency. It's I think that it's like that. If you think of nothing else, if you're if you're just in real estate to do a deal a year or 2 deals a year,
Yeah.
hey, and by the way, I got zero problem with that.
No, me neither.
Like, there's a lot of people I know who do a couple deals a year as added income.
Yep.
And they're trying to make sure they got the retirement and all that.
Yes.
I think if you're doing that, man,
It's great.
like awesome, no problem. But if you want to scale so that it's a real business,
Yeah.
and a valuable asset in itself,
yes.
and that really gets you, life changing,
Yes.
both wealth and freedom, more
Yeah.
importantly, then that approach of being consistent, of learning, constantly learning, being consistent, and not overreacting. So it's funny.
Yes.
We were talking on the pickleball court this morning.
Yeah.
So I'm learning how to fly a plane. You're already a pilot.
Yeah.
You're where I'm going to be in a bit. But I just did my emergency landing training,
Yes. It's a scary one the first time.
and I loved it.
It's very fun on the front end, on the end of it.
I love the whole thing.
Yeah.
But there, and I'm going somewhere. This is not just
Yeah,
to
yeah.
geek out. But here's what I realized the first time. So when you do it, first you do it in the sim. Or I did it in
Okay.
the sim first. But the sim,
It's not.
there's
It's not a
the
sim.
table stakes of like I'm fine because I can open
Yeah.
the door.
Right.
But when you do an emergency landing, the thing I realized more than anything is that you have time
Yes.
to be strategic in your decision making.
Yes.
And so what happens, just for those of you, like, I'm going to geek out slightly, but it's relevant to business, is, what happens is you're essentially, you pull the power off back to idle, and then you have to glide the plane on a specific glide path down, keeping a speed, and a speed, your speed is basically controlling that, but you don't panic because you have the time
Yes.
to make the decisions, do your memory items, and do all that. And I realized that first emergency landing was practice was I have time to actually make the right decision.
Yes.
And I think from a business perspective, that's really relevant.
Yeah. I actually really love this example because I can go in front of this and use an analogy, and then also on the back end there's an analogy. So in the moment, right? What causes somebody to fail their emergency landing check ride, right? Fear, nervousness. You forget to pull idle and get glide back, and you skip to mayday, 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 right? Or you don't say mayday, 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 but you know what I mean.
Yeah. When you're practicing, no.
Yeah. You skip to the thing that is gonna feel like it's giving you the most amount of what would you say?
No, it's not control. It's almost
Relief of like somebody knows somebody's gonna help me,
yes.
right? Like I'm on the radio, like the tower knows. And in all reality, you might not be in an emergency. You might have jumped the gun, right? You might have maybe you thought you smelled smoke, like we were talking about, earlier. Like you might have thought you smelled smoke, but really it was just like the person in the back was opening up a snack, or something like this, right? Which happens actually in a small plane. And it's like, sometimes people jump the gun and they make the quick decision to go straight to the thing instead of taking the time.
Take a beat.
Yeah, to think about it, like, okay, what is my checklist? What is my acronym? And in my business, like we teach this to our customers a lot, like we use acronyms because, military pilot, like we love acronyms. So like on lead management side, I have an acronym called STABM. We love to stab our records, right? And it's great because who doesn't want to stab the record? Who doesn't want to get the lead? Like you get frustrated with leads sometimes, right? So status, task, assignee, board messages. And when I teach this to our users on our Thursday lead management training, like it clicks so well and it gives them that operational efficiency in order to have the confidence to slow down,
Take that beat.
stab the record in, stab the record out. Every time I enter, I stab. Every time I leave, I stab. And that makes sure that I'm always having that operational cadence. But what's important about this is if you never went through and practiced and understood what the process is for an emergency landing, if you didn't know that you needed to go in the direction of the wind, or you needed a certain amount of space, or what is better, a highway or a field, and what kind of aircraft am I using, you wouldn't know that the first step is not calling an emergency landing the tower. It's, okay, well, let me check. Do I have let me do my process of trying to return on the aircraft and do these different things before I actually call an emergency. And staking it even further, now I say like you're beyond that now. So you've done your training and you are at the point of doing an emergency, actual calling an emergency landing. What happens in between there, right? And so let's just give an analogy in actual flight. I love that you brought up that I can geek out at the same time. So when you take off, let's just say you're taking off and you're in flight. You're not sitting here thinking like everything's fine. Like when you're flying, you're not saying, I'm fine, everything's great. What you're thinking is, what if tomorrow, or what if in 5 minutes from now, or what if this happens in this moment? You're role playing literally nearly the whole flight. I mean, you relax every now and again, right? But when you're going over, like if I'm crossing, I'm in Florida, so I cross over the water a lot, right? So if I'm gonna be going over the water, I'm thinking, okay, am I 10 miles out? Am I high enough to glide if I need to? I am running through the scenarios in my head, but they're pre-planned, articulated, operationally defined scenarios. It's not just like, I'm like, all right, well, I'm just gonna go this way this time, and then maybe I'll just be at this altitude. Like, no, it's not, I'm not hoping that it works out. I'm being very strategic. I've educated myself. I've made a plan, and I follow the plan. I don't just randomly deviate. Now, if there's a massive storm in front of me, and I might just,
You may have to pivot a
yeah,
little.
but I know that going into, before I even take off, that I know my weather, and I know that if for some reason I do find weather and I have to deviate, what's my deviation plan? It's planned out, and by this plan, I always say that with deep understanding comes the ability to manipulate. And so if you spend the time to understand market analysis and how to manage your data and how to do these different things, how to set up your call flows in a smartphone, and you spend that time, not between 9 to 5, but as a after 5, because 9 to 5 you need to be on the phone.
You gotta be on the phone.
You don't have to care about these other things because it doesn't matter right now to you. But after 5 o'clock, I can spend the time articulating. Don't go out with my friends. Don't do these different things. Like spend the time really writing it out and doing operational role playing. The confidence you gain is astronomical.
And like to the final aviation thing for me, because I'm in the PPL, like I'm learning. I'm just I'm at the start, but the training, the constant training you do, the education you do, the amount of flying a plane's pretty easy.
Yeah.
The amount of knowledge you need
It's a lot.
is unbelievable.
Yeah.
But that knowledge gives you the confidence to, and you train it and train it and train it and train it. It gives you the confidence to know, I know that when I'm here, I know what, if I'm at this position and something goes wrong, I know that I've already thought of where I'm going to go. Yeah. My altitude's going to be determined so that I have a glide path to where I need to get to.
Yep.
And to a business point of view, if you're serious about building a business, if you've never built a business before, if you're a W-2, and you have never done it before, like I've never worked for anybody.
Really?
No.
I didn't know that about you.
No. Well, when I was a student, I worked. But once I got past being a student, I've never gone on a job application. I've never gone on an interview. I've never like any of that. And but for those of you, if like you're a W-2 and you're thinking about, can I do this? I always say to people, look, you need two things to be a business owner. You need to have a tolerance for risk.
Yes.
Because if you don't have a tolerance for risk, fuck off. Like, you don't.
It's not worth it because your stress levels,
you're gonna
just
sucks. It's just not worth it. I have a real high risk tolerance.
You can build a tolerance to risk, but you got to go do things that put you in risky situations. Like go join like a martial arts or something like that and get used to like problems.
Yeah, you need a tolerance for risk, and you need the willingness to build the structure and execute structure.
Yeah.
Because no business scales on a whim. No business scales on a whim. And so back to to close out in terms of data sift and the kind of systems.
Yeah.
If you're serious about building a real estate business, having tools where you can be strategic with your data, where you can track everything, where you can make sure that going back to your stabum method.
See, it works. You remembered it.
Where you have that methodology that's making that consistency and you're being smart, the path to success is absolutely there.
Yes.
But if you don't have that, it's luck.
Yeah, and it becomes repeatable, right? that's the most important thing, is being able to repeat. Because if you're repeating something, even if you repeat something and 90% of it is the wrong way, because of the 10% that's right, it's going to take you a lot longer. Okay, but if you repeat the same thing, something will happen. Something will shake loose, right? Even a blind squirrel gets a nut. That's it. Yeah. Okay. So it still works. But if you surround yourself with the right companies, the right people, the right community, and you have the right mindset and you're dedicated, what happens is you build that discipline that allows you to start slowly, incrementally improving and getting it to 20% right, 30% right, 40% right. But you're not trying to make 50% moves. It's incremental changes.
That's a great point. Nobody ever leaps from 10 to 90.
No.
Like, or when that happens, it's a fluke.
Right.
Or that is not a strategy.
Yeah.
That is an accident.
People get themselves stuck in that, though, because they start off to the wall, going super fast, and they don't have a choice, because now they have 3 acquisitions people, and they have this much ad spend, and they don't have a choice, because if they don't, they're going to lose a bunch of money. And this fear and not being able to operationally navigate through that makes them get stuck in it until an external thing like the market shift or something like that forces them to make that decision. So we want to eliminate that as much as possible. And the sooner we start focusing on it, the better, because the worst time to start focusing on your heart health is when you have a heart attack, right? And so we want to be very proactive better than reactive all day long.
Absolutely. Well, so to close out this episode, Tyler, why don't you give let's close out with you. How can people get started with Data Sift? How can they reach you directly? You close us out.
All right, so this is the steps to success right now. If you're an existing investor or not, okay? We have a 5-day deal flow challenge. I think it's $27, okay? Go to our website, datasift.ai. Join that challenge. That challenge is going to give you all that knowledge and fundamentals, the emergency landing stuff, AI embedded, all this kind of stuff. And it's a very, very cheap way to get into the door and learn the right thing, okay? Yeah. Do that. Sign up for a Sift account. Go to SmartPhone, sign up for a SmartPhone account, say you're with Sift, okay? And with that challenge and that process, in less than $500 investment all overall, right? You're going to learn how to reduce your marketing budget by at minimum 20%. Or you're going to be in the very best place to start business and get successful. So datasift.ai, or you can also search our Facebook community group and ask questions. It's
very active community.
Very active.
Very active.
Data Sift, real estate mastermind, just search it on Facebook and request it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, Tyler, as always, it's been a pleasure to see you in person.
Yes.
That's one of the best things about these. But I'll make sure the links are posted, folks. You heard them. Go check it out. We've been partners now for probably 5 years.
It was 5 years, yeah.
And it's been a tremendous relationship, and it keeps marching forward. So I appreciate you, mate.
Thank you.
And everybody, thanks for listening, and have a great week.
Peace out.
Thanks for listening to another amazing episode of That Real Estate Tech Guy. Head over to thatrealestatetechguy.com to check out all episodes and get special discounts on tons of awesome real estate technology platforms.